Ladies and gentlemen, this Take 10 is called Time Management. Make it easier for yourself and your students. But what it's really about is that whilst trying to improve my own time management, I took a very searching look at whether the assessment item I was using was an appropriate length. I need to explain this, of course. I am mad keen about one particular item of assessment I set, which is about a new disease or a new medical procedure. I've gone on about this before at length, probably on some of these Take 10s. I make up a disease or I make up a medical procedure. I give my students information about it that is logical and plausible, but they have to use that information to argue the effects of this new disease or the new medical procedure upon a person's health. This item of assessment fosters original and critical thought. It also stimulates an enormous amount of class discussion and leads to teamwork in that people become very cooperative on discussion boards. They're not just saying, oh, I found this stuff on the internet, we can stick it in our essays. They argue points instead. They form up into teams as the course progresses. And I'm very happy about this item of assessment, especially since, quite remarkably, even though it's a second year essay, it's a very good predictor of those who will go on to do postgraduate study, the ones who do well in this. Now, when I set this assessment item, which is obviously an essay, I thought to myself, gee, I've got to fill in a box which gives its length. Oh well, 2,000 words. Why the hell did I choose 2,000 words? Well, I didn't really think about it much. I just really repeated what I had suffered through as a student. We all had 2,000 word essays back in the dawn of time last century when I was a student. So, 2,000 words, well that's okay then. 2,500, oh it's a bit long. 3, much too long. 1,500, oh no, a bit short. 2,000, it's about right. Nice comfortable round number. About right. That just seems about right. Well, not a good reason for choosing 2,000 at all, but it slid through the committee, and the funny thing is that when it went through the committee, I remember one of my colleagues looking at that and saying, that seems about right. Well, my class sizes started increasing. The problem was that with a 2,000 word essay, some students go to 2,200 or 2,300, and a few go up to 3,000 words, and some even offer you 4,000 words. And that's all right when you've got a small class, and I'm a bit of a softie. I didn't penalise students for having too much written down. I just taught marks off if it was inappropriate. But as class size increased, I therefore clearly got more long essays, and they started to really get to me in that when you get a really long essay that's not very good, that's very repetitive, that says over and over again the same stuff, and once you pointed that out, all you want to do after marking that is to go off and sort of make a pot of tea and drink it all, or go for a walk, or do nothing. I also have the impression that the essays that were rather long weren't all that good, and that worried me a lot. So what I did is, I thought I will have a look and see what the student mark is in relation to essay length. These are data for several years. I did them for each year and the pattern was the same. Essay length of 0, well, essay length of 3,000 words, 1,500 in the middle. And the percentage the student got, I'll call it mark, all the way from 0 to 100. I can get 100% in my essays with a pass mark of 50%. Interesting choice, 50% pass mark. Now, if it's sort of half right, you've sort of got about half, if the tank's half full, that's enough, you're going to go on. Well, this is the pattern of the marks, a consistent pattern from year to year. Very short essays didn't do well. Now, these are super duper short, often consisting of dot points, and I had the impression, well, I found out. They'd been rustled together the night before they were due, or the night it was due, because some students do have that strategy, and in some courses it might actually work if you can just grab stuff from the internet. But this essay wasn't like that. You had to think about it. I got some rather panic-stricken emails from students, some that just completely fessed up. Yeah, I screwed it, Steve. I admit it, I left it too late. But as the length increased, the percentage mark increased rather swiftly too. Some quite short essays do very well. It's possible to get 100% for this essay, but fair range, as you'd expect. But then something rather interesting happened. It's not down there either, it's up here. And that is that for the very long essays, I got stuff like this. Did get one or two up there, but in general, the very long essays did not do as well. The pattern seemed to be like this. Initially it went up till we hit about 1,000 words, and it's with a lot of spread. It was pretty much a flat liner up to about 1,500 to 1,600 words, and then there was a tilt downwards, and quite a pronounced tilt downwards too. So I went and I looked at these. What the hell was going on? Well, there was always repetition. I pointed that out, but as I said, I didn't take marks off. But a lot of these essays, well, the majority of the student hadn't really got the point. So they'd repeated themselves, but they'd repeated themselves with stuff that wasn't very good either. And I felt they were almost frantically repeating themselves in the sense that, oh, well, if I put this in again, or if I put more in, it'll be okay. But they'd missed the point, whereas the students here, some of them had got to the point in 1,000 words and had got 100%. Just like that, bang! They'd got it and they knew they'd got it. You could tell the way they'd written. Therefore, it seems that to do well on this essay, you don't have to write a tremendously long essay. You could almost get away with one at 1,000 words. But on the basis of that, my decision was that I wasn't going to have a 2,000 word essay anymore. I was going to set the word limit at 1,600. 1,600 words. You can go to 18 if you want. First time I did this was term 3, 2013. Term 3 that's, well, not all that long ago. Well, what effect did it have? Well, first off, it sliced that off. But what happened to the essays you'd expect to be in that group? Did they end up down here? No, they didn't. They ended up in here and just over the line, I guess. This is the pattern, anyway, for 2013. But there was no drop-off point towards the right-hand side of the data. It went up and it stayed up and it spread, but it stayed flat. Wow! Now, marking a 1,600 word essay is a lot easier than marking a 2,400 word essay. Furthermore, there isn't a great deal of repetition, which makes the marker grind and crack their teeth with rage and frustration. It seemed, when I looked at the marks and the essays for 2013 term 3, that my students, by being forced to write more succinctly, had focused their thoughts better. They had really sat down, I think, and said to themselves, well, gosh, it's a short essay. What do I really have to put into it? They've thought about it more, and therefore they had written better essays. The average mark went up slightly compared to previous years. I know it's only 1 year, but nevertheless, it's looking promising. It was excellent for me. It sliced 20%. Hey, wow. It sliced 20% off my marking time. You might say, gee, 20%, wow, 1 day in 5. Yeah, but when you've got 350 essays, and it used to take you 25 days to do that, and it only takes 20, that is a bonus. Like a real bonus. So there was a positive outcome, both for me and for my students. This has made me really question and think in a more general sense, and that is that when we set, or for every assessment item, for every item of assessment, I don't think it's good enough to simply decide on the length of an assessment item, the type of an assessment item, like, oh, well, I'll put in one of these things because it's good and my colleagues use them. I think for every item, we need to justify it in terms of whether it's realistic, whether it's applicable. I guess when I say realistic, I mean authentic. And whether it relates to the course outcomes, the course learning outcomes. We need to ask ourselves whether, when we set one very specifically, why should an exam be 3 hours? Could it be 2 hours? Could it be 1 hour? Or does it have to be an exam? Is there some better way of assessing our students, some different way that does the same job? Why should I get my students to analyse 30 statistics problems when perhaps they could only do 15? It may make no difference. I don't think we can just smugly and comfortably, like I did, say, oh, 2000, that sounds about right. And it does. I bet some people watching say, yeah, that sounds about right. I think we need to be able to justify everything we do in terms of setting assessment. And if I had to front an accreditation panel, which I have to with this course, and justify why I had an assignment and why I had an assignment of 1600 words and why I asked about a new disease, I could do all of those things. Now, the final comment I want to make is that I think we are missing out on opportunities here, because I changed this item of assessment by looking at the data. Looking at the data, the empirical data from the course. That is, that graph that I drew on the board a little while ago. I used that graph, I used my students' results and responses to inform my decision about an assessment item. Now, our Moodle sites, our grade books are crawling with data like this, but a lot of us don't use them at all. Yet there's an awful, and you could even get some bit of teaching research out of it if you wanted. In some cases, we are neglecting a source of data that will actually inform our practice and make us, I think, better teachers and improve the situation for our students as well. And I guess my impassioned plea to you is think about the assessment items, question the assessment items you have or you've inherited. If you've come here and you've been given a course, you're going to teach that. And say to yourself, how can these be improved? Can I justify them? Is there a way I can make it easier for myself and my students while still retaining the rigour of what we're doing? Thank you.